Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of the Pivot of Change. And today I have a guest with me who's already been here a few times before, Angelica, and she's now all the way over the other side of the world in Australia. And she's a trauma recovery practitioner, and she also does a lot of emotional coaching. She works privately with clients, but also now does a lot of workshops in Australia, which I think is really exciting. So it's great to have you back, Angelica.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for inviting me back. It's been a long time, and yes, all the way here in the heat and in the summer. And yes, I'm at the moment very busy. I think I had yesterday I was counting like 10 workshops I'm planning in Australia and in Europe. So yeah, very busy time. Very busy time. I was napping today, and I was taking some rest that I need.
Yeah, it's very understandable. Because it can take a lot of energy. And what are the workshops mainly about that you're now giving?
So this year, the theme is conscious relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it isn't focused solely on partnerships,
Mm-hmm.
on all our relationships. You know, how to improve them, how to better them, and also see the patterns, see the issues that we have, and where they're coming from. And so of course we're going to be diving deep into our past and childhood trauma and everything else. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and it's very interesting because of course we all have our things and our patterns that we would like to change, and of course a lot of them stem in childhood, so it's always good to get more to the root of it. And how would it kind of your your perspective on relationship change over the last year, because we just started 2020. So how did kind of 2019 change your perspective on relationships for yourself or in general?
yes, it's interesting that this year I have decided to run these workshops, which I planned last year, and then I've had really big learnings on relationships. I got married in the meantime, and yeah, I've learned quite a lot, and yeah, I was pushed and still am, to kind of change certain of my patterns, which
Mm-hmm.
don't serve me. Um, yeah, it's been for me. It's been this is for me not just my personal relationship, my intimate relationship with my husband, or it's actually right now I'm transforming. I feel I'm in a I entered the year of transforming most of my relationships. I'm certain friendships.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to or let go or transform. I wish that we can transform, but I need to also see how if this can actually yeah, if this can happen, because it takes two to tango in all of our relationships. So I could just see certain things that I basically don't need anymore. And yeah, it's been really a big change, like 360 degrees from even last year, where I've had those friends, or those friends kind of served me, or they were meeting my needs. And this year I'm actually I was kind of cleaning my cupboards with lots of people. Maybe it's not nice to say cleaning the cupboards, but at the same time, like I said, I always think of transforming if possible, but if not, we just need to let each other go.
Yeah.
And set each other free to find the relationships that we need.
Yeah, and I feel like that is definitely important. It's also been very important for me to actually, in order for to create really conscious and healthy relationship, is to kind of, what I found it different is to really choose into it, right? So over the years we can collect and have a lot of friendships, and for a lot of people this can also be with their romantic relationships as well, that we kind of no longer choose into it, right? We stay friends with them because that's just the way it's been for a very long time. And I feel like that letting go process can be very powerful, and it doesn't always mean that we will no longer kind of bring that friendship, or that we kind of stay apart for the rest of our lives. It can come back again, but I mean, the letting go part, I feel like is very important to see if it's kind of true and working for both of you, and if it's really
Exactly.
genuine, because of course people can change over time, and like, so it can, in some cases it can be that we're no longer as compatible with the people we used to be very compatible with. But it can also sometimes mean, I think as well, for a lot of people, to kind of create that space for yourself, to first to really get to know yourself, and to also explore other things, and also invest in sometimes newer friendships. And then I feel like if a friendship is really real and genuine, even if you have like a space in between it, we can still, that relationship will still come back, and you will still come back together if it's really a genuine relationship that's really meant to be in your life. Yeah. Because sometimes we can be really
Yeah.
scared for letting go for that reason, like, okay, that means I have to let go of them forever, but it's just for now. And then letting go becomes a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it seems, I mean, easier because this is my seventh country, seventh that I've
Mm,
lived on. So I've changed, I moved, I have friends that I see, I don't know, every, once in a couple of years, some once a year. And, with some I stay in touch over, Skype and any other apps, online apps. It's not so much. And also I entered, like last year, entered 4 decades of my life. So
mm,
for me, the friendships now, the meaning and what I need is also different.
yeah.
Um, it's just, yeah, for me, it's very the kind of feeling inside of me, when I don't feel like, if something doesn't change, I don't think there's a point to continue the same thing. So there's,
Mm,
this clear message of change for me, and,
yeah.
and not just change, but like a big transformation, and just cleaning, as I said, cleaning my cupboards, which maybe I haven't even looked into, but I'm aware how much energy I'm using, how much energy of that is using me,
Mm,
um, to maintain these friendships, to maintain certain things that are serving me. So it's very good that I do, once in a while, this cleanup. But how is for you? Because where you are living, this is your hometown. Because for
mm,
you, I often talk to people back home, or wherever people live, where they were born. It's different. Because for
very
me, it's
different.
much
Mm,
easier. You know,
yeah.
my school friends, and I mean, I love them, I think of them, and I've changed so much that yeah, with most of them, I'm not sure if I would, if we could still be like those best friends in high school or primary school. I don't know, maybe we could, but I'm not staying in touch because, life kind of, took me along, to many other
Yeah.
countries, and I just didn't have time to connect and stuff. So how is for you, where you
Yeah,
are with your
yeah, I
friends?
think it is very different, because of course when there's a big distance, it already, like you've experienced it, already changes a lot of things in general. So kind of then I think in a lot of ways, when then friendships that naturally kind of fade away, that you're no longer really investing the time and energy into. Um, I think it's different when you're in your hometown. So I did do a lot of traveling, which I think was really good and beneficial for me, to kind of also get out of that area and get out of that zone. So I could really also first discover for myself what it is that I want and I need, because I did find it extremely difficult to do, really staying in that tight group, because I've also experienced a very in it, which was really beautiful, especially for most, I think, of my teenage years and growing up. It was always great to have a tight and also supportive friendship group, but it can also kind of in a way limit you from really discovering your own things and living your own life your way. And to then distance yourself from that for a while, what I really needed, while kind of living, even though I traveled and here and there, but even though you still live there, I found it really difficult. I found it like one of the most challenging things, because I think people naturally tend to take it really personal when you distance yourself, which is of course understandable, but they always make it something about them. And a lot of times it isn't, right? A lot of times we just really have our unique needs, desires, and preferences that change over time. So what we need and want in friendships can be different. So for me, it was really important to for a long time to distance myself from kind of my childhood and teenage friendships that I had for such a long time, which was really hard for me. And it kind of, for me, came with a lot of guilt. And I think that's what kind of comes with it, because it upsets people, because people do take it personally, because people can feel abandoned, like it can trigger so a lot of those wounds in people when you distance yourself. But yeah, so for me that was really hard, and I'm actually now at a stage where a lot of those friendships are actually in a way kind of flourishing again, so that connection is regrowing again. It was always there, but then I'm actually again investing more time and energy in those friendships again. But I feel that the period in between, even though it was hard and painful sometimes, was really needed for me, because now those friendships, even though they're with the same people, the friendship has changed completely. So the biggest change for me was it no longer is a have to. Okay, I have to see them, I have to invest time in them, or I have to do this. It was always for me personally a have to, a lot of friendships. And it really changed into a choose to. So even for a while where I don't feel like seeing certain friends as much, that's okay too. And it was a change that was really needed for me. So yeah, so then like, because I did realize that some connections really stayed. So then it was really about learning to accept your differences, right? That I'm on a completely different path than a lot of them, which is always the case with childhood friends. We never all embark on like the same path. It's just not the way things are. But to realize that that's okay too. So for example, I've now gotten a lot more into spirituality and self-development, and I now have more like new friends that came into my life where I can share all those passions with and share that type of depth with. And more my childhood friends are the friends that I go to like to kind of have fun in a way, but not like a superficial fun, but a way of like they kind of help me and remind me to not take always everything too seriously. So I now see that the benefit they can bring into my life. But I think that, like you said, like with you, like I said, clearing out the closet, that sometimes that's needed too, because we do have a lot of friendships that don't bring anything to our life. And when when we're in a relationship where we're not really bringing or adding on to each other's lives, then I feel like that's kind of a friendship that cannot last in the long run, or it becomes really painful. So what I realized is there always has to be something that you're getting out of the friendship. And yeah, and for me, for my older friendship, it's more like the fun, don't take things so seriously. And you can also allow yourself to be young. And my more newer friendships, I can go more into the depth of things, more into the depth of like spirituality, emotions, and talk about like childhood trauma and all these things on a very deep level, which is something I need to. So I'm just meeting my needs now at different places. So yeah, that's what I kind of really changed for me in friendships over the last year.
Yeah, that's for me interesting because yeah, I found some of my friends who you know, still they live in the same, you know, place where they were born, they grew up there. Lots of them, they want to do things, and they have such a big attachment to what those friends are gonna think, what they're gonna say. Well, I can't even remember when last time I was thinking about what my childhood friend, like specific
Mm-hmm.
groups. But that's kind of what I feel like challenge of belonging to the family, friends group, any type of groups. And yeah, I'm not sure, like, yeah, my kind of path seem to be quite I mean, individualistic. I like groups, but I don't like that. So I kind of I do it in so kind of business way, if you can say that, because I do like my own privacy, and I do like my, you know, my independence, and I do like that non-attachment to, I'm going to do my own thing. And this is where, for me, is still sometimes I don't crave anymore for what's it called, to belong to the groups. But when people, they, you know, I think it's actually now, like, I see more them, those groups having a problem, because I could see, come on, you know, you should, you know, get in this group, in that group. And I'm like, no, I'll come here. I will be dancing here. I'll be doing yoga or meditating. We're gonna, you know, on my own terms. And yeah, so that's kind of my experiences. Maybe, like I said, maybe I need to, you know, look deeper. And but I don't crave for belonging to the groups in that way. Because it stops me, literally it stops me of being fully me. And probably that is something that I could still, so I could still be in a group, but I think it takes a lot for a human being to do that, you know, to actually be part of a group and to say, F it, I'm just gonna be myself. That's those people are usually, you know, the rare ones, and usually the ones which we're following on a social media, or celebs, or you know.
Yeah, because it's challenging, it's difficult. And like like what you said, that the thinking patterns of what do people think about me, we have it a lot more with people from the past and people from our childhood, I've noticed. Because I don't have it with new people at all. And that's the funny thing, but I can still have it, but I'm not really aware of it. And because I continued kind of doing my own thing, I was able to overcome it, but I can still sometimes have it, you know, when I write something or that's really deep and personal in a way, and or goes more into like the depth of things, like that, I'm like, oh my god, what are they going to think about it? But I've also learned to, like, okay, even though they think that's strange, that is too fucking deep, for example, and I'm like, okay, that's okay too, we're different, you know. So and I think it's also a lot of to do with your personal desires. And this is also what I talked about, like also one of my previous guests, Sophie, and we actually also not that long ago went into my astrology chart and things like that. We had a conversation very similar, that for me it was like I was born very, as a young child, very individualistic, but that it's actually for me what is very like on my path in a way is to kind of create that community and find the belonging. And she said for her that it was actually, I think similar to you, that it was actually the opposite, that she had a lot of that community and tightness, and that she, for her, the desire was really to break free from that and really have her individual thing. So I don't think it's necessarily one thing is better than the other, but it really has to also do with your personal desires. And of course it can change over time, but yeah. So I feel like for me it's also a strong desire for more community, and I like it, even though I'm introverted, I do always like being around people and having people around, I've noticed. So I'm not as individualistic as I thought I was, which now is a good thing, but it does explain why you then feel more lonely or things like that, because that need for you is just very strong.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. Yeah, and me, I currently, I was just saying that I need friends. I need nature and friends. But yeah, I pick and choose my friends. So, you know, right now I'm in this phase of my life where, because I overcame my loneliness. So I just don't I don't have it anymore, because when I feel, the moment that I feel lonely, I connect.
Yeah.
So do you understand? That's my remedy. Like you have, I don't know, like you have a headache, people who like kind of fix it, because I don't think that I need to wallow more in my loneliness. I've been lonely for so long, for so many decades of my life, and now I'm grateful that I got that. So, but nature is really something that like I need, and it's kind of nurturing, and yeah. So it's interesting, yeah, with our friendships.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting. And what I'm also kind of interested in, what is like because we just talked about how kind of 2019 changed your view on relationship. But what I'm also interested in is, what was the most interesting, or your kind of like your favorite conversation you had last year that you can remember? So if you kind
Last
of
year,
have to kind of
I've actually,
reflect back on it, what was your favorite conversation you had, and what was it about?
I now just had like a few months ago, I've had a conversation, but this, was this last year. My brain is not so good with I have a cat which is, jumped just now on the table, no one's attention. We've talked about, I've talked about change with a friend, how one person has changed, his friend has changed. And the way how I heard it is like, oh, that person did, I don't know, X, Y, Z, and they changed. And I was just thinking, yeah, I wish we can just change like that. Kind of, for me, I actually wrote about it the other day, like blog post, because I was again inspired about it. The talk was basically, I literally, for me, I said, with like change doesn't come with realization, with a wow moment, with realization, with attending a seminar, workshop, watching a video, or reading a book, or having a conversation. You don't change, you just realize something. And I said, for change you need to have a daily practice of something. We don't change on a yoga mat, we don't change on a, it's a daily practice of certain things. So I feel like, we were talking about this, how humans, we throw this, I changed, so, or people go back to the old relationships, intimate or friendships, and it's like, oh, I changed, come and see how I changed. I'm like, well, you can only see how somebody changed, again, ongoing, day to day, how they acting, reacting, what they're saying, and stuff like that. So this for me was very, very interesting realization that, we're throwing this word change, or I've changed, somebody just reads the book and say, oh, this book changed my life. Did it really? Yeah, you realize something, but let's now see what you're going to do with that big realization. So for me, like this year, or like a decade ahead, like it's loads focus even more than ever before on action, but not, as we spoke before the video, not just acting to tire myself, not to give myself a break, but act on certain things. So for example, right now, this year, like I'm practicing softness, kindness, softness. And how do I practice that? Because people I just like to share that as well. You don't change by, I don't know, reading and then thinking. I'm actually repeating myself, whatever I do, in like a daily mantra. What I'm trying. And now, did I change because I've been practicing this now for a while? I don't know, but I'll keep doing it, because I feel like it's needed long, repetition of certain things for this to become actually a habit, and for this to become a new us, and let's see how committed I am, how long will this last. So
yeah,
how
I
about
think
you?
that's great. No, I 100% agree, because also from my experience now working with clients, it's like, especially when we do very transformative therapy, so a lot can change within someone like in one day. But I always prepare people already beforehand and tell them, and also afterwards, when you kind of more practically talk about like how do you actually create real lasting change, which you're talking about. And I prepared him like that's the hard part. That's like the hardest part. For most people, it's like keeping that up. So when we get an insight of, for example, like for a lot of people, it might be when, for example, when you go into the emotion more of loneliness and things like that come up, like I need more connection in your life. And just by the insight, and even though that realization can be very powerful, it doesn't literally change things. Like you then have to get out into the world and maybe go up to people, like start conversations with people which you've never done before and which terrifies you for a lot of people. And that's actually the hardest part, or for a lot of people that I've noticed that do have like all the relationships and friendships set into place, but they aren't really opening up or like really not showing like all parts of themselves. And then the realization is great, but then you actually have to do it, and that's the hard part. And then it's not just doing it like once, like you said, it's like a daily thing. So it's not just, okay, yeah, I've done it. I went up to someone and started a conversation. No, it's something that you have to continue to do until it becomes natural. So I feel like a lot of things in the beginning, that's the difficulty of change. The beginning can be quite hard. So in the beginning, for example, same with softness, it can be like, okay, what is softness really? And then it's really about like kind of also figuring it out, and it's a bit more challenging. But the more you repeat something over a longer period of time, it kind of then becomes natural, and then it becomes something you don't have to think about. But in the beginning, it is something you have to think about, put a lot of energy in. It's not always easy, but it's actually needed before you want an actual change. Because otherwise, you can kind of go, for example, do some healing work and get insights, then you feel better for a while, but then a few months later you feel alone again. And it's like, why am I not, I thought I healed this. No, but you actually do have to meet those needs. And if you're not meeting those needs, the same pain will come up in a different way later on. Yeah. So that's a hard part, I think, for most people.
And especially people who work on themselves, reading self-help books, doing shadow work, doing deep work, because we're all very proud, as we're saying, with a little ego, we're doing like shadow work. But actually what I've noticed that I've been lately means like last, I don't know, maybe even a year, like really focusing on this, like what are you actually, what's your actions? And I've noticed that people who are obsessed, especially with the healing and shadow work, they actually day to day in their practices, they're not practicing it. I don't know, go to the shop, do something different, greet, smile, or try to engage if you lack connection. Try get out of this comfort zone, and like I don't know, stress this enough, that people need to get out of the comfort zone. And it's not that I'm being aggressive to you, a little bit, little by little you go. No, not like a little bit aggressive, little by little get yourself out of the comfort zone, because otherwise you can just close the door, do the shadow work, and live alone with your shadow work. I just don't see the point of it. So I feel like this needs to be maybe like mostly like now I'm giving my clients homework, these kind of actions day to day, and also the positive things, because they're so diving so deep into such a darkness that I feel they need to also see there's a light, and that the world is beautiful as well, but not in an invalidating way. But there needs to be some kind of balance, because otherwise we're just only focusing on trauma and pain, and I think it needs for us to kind of go, and I know it's hard, I know, like I've been there, but I feel it's my kind of duty almost to remind people on that, so I feel like some kind of light, in their life, also reminding them that there is light.
Yeah. And I think it's just as important, right, that we need both. And I think I've also been really into Buddhism, and then they kind of say like awareness, like full awareness and conscious, so that it doesn't really come from like an ignorant place. It is seeing both. So it's being able to see your pain and also see the darker things, and sometimes the things you don't really want to see about yourself, that you prefer to hide away from. But on the other hand, it's also seeing the good and seeing the positive and seeing the beautiful in life. Because if we would just focus too much on the shadow, then we just get so sucked into it that it can then be even that we kind of forget to enjoy things. Right? And that's what I've realized with a lot of people who kind of get into that pattern of shadow work, that a lot of people, there are people that take it so seriously, like their healing work has to be serious and I have to do it right. That's really, usually that's also of course a pattern that comes originally from childhood, but then it's about actually the healing for those people is I can also just enjoy things, or that healing can also be being playful and being childish again, and just having fun and doing things for no like good logical reason. And that healing is a combination of both, right? It's being able to be present, go into the pain, but it's also being able to allow yourself to experience joy and all these positive emotions as well. Yeah, and I think when people especially come from a very traumatic background, it can be like the pain can be something you're so familiar with, so that actually in the beginning, that even being really joyful and doing all these things can feel like very unfamiliar or unsafe, or like you said, it's uncomfortable. But that is actually more what those people actually need, because otherwise we kind of just get stuck in our pain, and it doesn't get us anywhere.
Yeah, and for me it's sad to watch how, when they say, your youth are, this is the best period of your life. In my work, in our work, I don't see that. I just don't see that, So I watched today one beautiful video of, one beautiful old couple. They're so in love. They're in the 70s. And, obviously they've done deep work. They're doing deep work. My goodness, what a joy. They're giggling, they're joking. There's so much joy in that video. And I was just thinking, this I haven't seen in a long time, especially in the videos, because it's like all very, maybe I'm in this kind of place right now. But yeah, I think world needs more joy, and I'm not trying to be, like fake positive. But I'm really like, it saddens me the state where we are. That we are scrolling, and we're in our pain, we're in information, we are serious, we're stressed. This is how we live. My goodness, So when I see somebody joyous, this kind of, oh, wow, and I'm in love with that. No matter what they're saying, no matter what is information, for me, they transmit something that is so needed in this world. So yeah, like I feel like the youth, I mean, it's just, when they say suffering is optional, people that've been through a lot, and they really, definitely, most of these people, they do need a deep healing, deep work. And also, yeah, they need some kind of balance there, to get out, otherwise, especially when they're in the hard place. I've been there, so I know how easy it is when you're in pain, in a dark place, dig yourself even deeper and even deeper. But because it's now such a, it's been, that's, one thing that I'm also, at the moment, it's I kind of don't like it much, that when you say that, you start, you're accused straight away, you're invalidating the pain, you're doing, and I'm not trying to do that. I can't invalidate anybody's pain. I've been in a pain like a lot. Like there's no way that I can, someone who is suffering, that I can say, just, I don't know, shake it off. So I'm not saying to shake it off or anything, but it's just, yeah, it's kind of like changing of the energy, taking a shower, go on a sunshine for like 2 minutes, soak the vitamin D, or, like just simple things which can kind of bring life and joy and then, the pain is still there. You don't need, but like, I know this is not long, but with a friend of mine, who is much younger again, than me. So she's in her 20s. We were talking how she's, obsessed with her pain. And this is what, lots of us, especially in the young years, we are, because we don't, the pain is here and we don't see anything else but, and for me, it's like entering the room where there's so much stuff, but you only see where your torch is, pointed, which your life is, and the way how I now look, so I'm now 40, the way how I look my own childhood and trauma, gosh, how much it changes. And it's not just about healing. It's also perception of time, perception of that I am not a parent, yet, or I'm not a parent. But I can already relate to certain things. And I know, they haven't done it on purpose or to really harm me, but they've been in this kind of place. So I can already have so much more understanding and forgiveness, I think, so much more. Again, not justifying anything for anyone, but yeah. So the time, I think, helps, and years help with that a lot.
Yeah, and with healing, of course, we go through different stages, right? So like you said, there's a very important stage. It is to validate that pain and to validate perspective you were in it as a child. But usually after we went through that, then it's also okay to just see it again from different perspectives, so we can also get a deeper understanding of it, and in a way that's not approving or condoning certain behavior, but more in a way of seeing and also understanding that it didn't have anything to do with us personally, right? And I think for that, it's a lot of people, that's also a pattern we get stuck in, is to really to take everything really personally. And actually when we go through that healing process, I feel what I've noticed is, first, okay, yeah, I needed to be able to really be my pain, and that needed to be validated. But after a while, it also was really healing for me to also see and understand the perspective of my parents, and to see like it has nothing. It's actually was very healing for my inner child. See, like, okay, I can see and understand now their childhoods and where it was coming from, and the pressure they were under. Like a lot of parents are under a lot of pressure, and that's why they did those things. And it was never something personal with me, because that's the more the perspective when we're so in pain. It's like you said, it's very, we're so absorbed in our pain and everything is about the pain. But when we kind of get out of that, we can see more clearly. And I think it's also allowing ourselves to get out of that, right? Giving yourself permission to also really, like I said, experience that joy again. Because especially for people who are aware of inner child work, you don't want that child of you to be in, when you have a young child, you're not going to be with a child for them to focus on their pain the entire time. And I think that's also the shadow side of what I've seen with more parents I've worked with their children, and they become aware of emotions, and they become aware of like how we are not supposed to suppress negative emotions, and we should really feel and acknowledge that. But the flip side of that is thinking there's something wrong with the child all the time, right? And sometimes all a child needs is just for a parent to just be present with it. Like, it's okay not to feel good all the time, but it's also okay to feel good again. And you don't always have to fix, heal, or go into therapy or whatever it is, because that's what I've seen as well, that you now have a lot of parents that are really conscious, and it's like, I want help for my children, so I want also them to go and see a therapist, or they send them to me, and I'm like, no, let your child be a child and go through their transformation. And it's also okay when they feel a little bit worse for a while, and you don't always have to like fix, heal, or change something in the child. Like, again, like both is good, like both the more heavy emotions, but also the very light emotions. And actually the pattern that keeps a lot of children stuck is like thinking that there's something wrong with them. And I think that's also the trap of shadow work. There's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with me, so I have to continue going and do all this work. But it's like a never ending cycle, because it's just like a loop more that people get
And
in.
also they feel injustice. I've had, actually, was it 2 days ago, I've had a client who, you know, she's also like young girl in her 20s, and, you know, accusing her mom, and, you know, and you know, we spoke about it, and, you know, I work with many clients who are still very angry with the parents, and
Mm-hmm.
fair enough, you know,
Yeah.
anger is there. But I actually said, okay, you can't change the past, can you?
Mm-hmm.
So they've done, you know, so let's say even in a personal relationship, like, you know, with a partner, you know, and then like if you split up and then you're only focusing, he did me wrong and he did.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're basically doing, you're focusing on something that has already passed. It's already happened. With our parents, it's been so much past. We have, you know, decades of them doing wrong to us. Now, I'm always saying, like, focus on your healing. But putting a gun in front of the face and saying, say sorry, you did me wrong, you know, this is not gonna get you love or safety, anything that, you know, you need from them in the first place, you know. So like, I'm kind of even trying to bring the logic into it, because clearly, like, even rational mind, like, you will not get it, will you? So that, like, we need to know that this is not going to serve us. The past has already happened. We can't erase it. So we just are responsible for our own healing. And, you know, even that anger and forgiveness, you know, I'm not, you know, trying to push anybody into, but bringing it up over and over and expecting love and change from the parents, I think it's a bit, like I said, not, there's no logic there. So it's good to basically, you know, to stop doing that, because it's just waste of lots of energy, lots of our energy and time we spend on that, and we can't get that. We can change that. We cannot change the past, you know. So yeah, some deep stuff, you know, but it's for me it's beautiful how through a work, you know, with the clients, you know, you just get such a profound thoughts, and then like revelations, really, because I've just realized, gosh, we all did that, we all are doing that, you know.
Yeah, you can also become aware of these patterns in yourself as well. And what I've really learned is, I think, and that's again seeing both sides, is that yes, it's good to see all the negative sides of your parents, right? And see how it has impacted you. But it's also okay to acknowledge all the good sides of a parent as well, and all the good things they've brought you. And not in a way of condoning certain behavior. For some people that may be more difficult than for others. But I think that can be really good and really healing. And then the choice is up to you if you want to invest in that relationship. You don't have to, you know. So it's your own conscious choice. If you see like, okay, I want to invest in the relationships with my family members, or I'm saying like, or to be really honest with yourself, like, I don't want to, right? And not in a way of like blaming them and saying like they did this to me and this and that, but no, saying like, I personally don't want to. Like you also said with the friendships as well, for a lot of people that can be family as well, you know, that you're like, they only take my energy, they don't bring anything to my life. And to say like, that's the reason why I don't want them in my life right now, and not just because of the past, but because of the now. And what I also did is like, you know, because for a lot of things that I waited a long time for getting the apology I wanted, or getting the acknowledgement that the things that happened, because you wanted validation. And what I realized is, then I just went into moments like, okay, let's imagine that you get that apology, right? Everything happens the way you want to. They come up to you and they say like, so sorry for everything I've done. They say the exact words that you want to say. And in my head, it's like, that's probably never going to happen, and it probably won't. But I just imagined myself and said like, what would change for you? What would change for you? And I was like, which for me it was about like this validation that it did happen. And I was like, I already know that. I don't need anyone else to tell me that. And that helped me a lot too, to realize that, okay, what actually are you trying to get out of that apology? And to really get really honest with yourself. And what I've also learned is that things that we didn't get from our parents, we can get from other people. And that is a very new, very big insight for me, I think, the last year about relationships, like especially around parents and family. Like everything that was lacking and still is lacking in your family, or all the things you didn't get, you can get it somewhere else. And when we are so focused on the past and on our family and how it's all wrong and bad, we're so close off to finding that solution that there might be, for me, it was very healing to now have older friends. I have a lot of friends, especially in my CrossFit community, that are like in their 40s and 50s, like up to 60s, like my parents' age. And what I realized is that actually that is what I needed. So it doesn't have to literally come from that one person. The same as in a romantic relationship, like not all your needs have to be met by that one partner. And then you're actually empowering yourself a lot by doing that.
Exactly. Yeah, you said it very well. I actually wanted to say, because yesterday I've had a workshop where I actually said, yeah, so it's copy paste to your partner. Exactly what you said, asking from parents, and then, but it's also, I think I mentioned this before, it's addiction also to a drama, to a pain, and it's addiction to when we were kind of, I call it removing the layers off. We were trying to peel off. Yeah, I was trying to find a word. Peeling off the layers. Underneath that is basically, I've been addicted to my own pain because this is the only way how I could get love. How I've learned I'm not well. Oh, I'm in pain. Then, I kind of get through that sorry love. Oh, so sorry, and we love you. But this, right now, like, I'm in the phase of my life, I don't need that anymore. And as I said, like one of my friends, like we were just talking a lot about it, and we were just trying to, with questions, what are you gaining? What are you gaining? And it's literally love. Right now, this is the only way, which, she's convinced that this is how to get love, by staying in a pain, literally staying in pain, because this is what you feel. Because she knows all of us, we are there when she suffers. Oh my God, I have a terrible, this and that. And she knows she will always have people then that she didn't have, like, as a child. It's emotional neglect, so it's very interesting that, it's good to ponder about these questions, how are we, what are we trying to get, and how are we actually, trying to get love, as human beings.
Yeah, and a lot of times in the beginning, we're so unaware of these patterns. And I also realized that a lot of times for a lot of children, it is like it can also be like when you get in attention or nurturing is, for example, when you're sick or when you're unwell, right? And that's the only time when parents really pay a lot of attention to a child. But later it can become in a pattern that you feel like, oh, I can only, for other people it's the other way around, like I can only have attention and things when I'm really happy and joyful. It can also be, like I said, actually I can only get love and affection when I'm in pain. And it all then starts with really becoming aware of that process, which sometimes is hard to see about yourself, but then it's also about realizing we all have these patterns and we all have these things, and there's nothing bad about it. It's just something that happened along the way, and that you do have the power to change that. Like we said before, sometimes it takes longer time to really change a very big pattern, but that it just takes a lot of commitment, but it will be worth it for sure.
Yeah, just the daily practices and commitments. Yeah.
And also, now you also recently got married last year. You did already
Mm-hmm.
tell me that you're not like super into the whole marriage thing. Is not something you extremely value as much as like some women do. Like it's their entire, like they
Yeah.
plan it all out, you know. Um, but how did it kind of also change your perspective on relationship going through that like transition? Because even though if we can put so much emphasis on it or not, it still is a transition of a relationship, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So last year, I mean, still it is. It's a big adjustment for
Mm-hmm.
us both. So we've been both of us, we're quite individualistic, and
Mm-hmm.
we were living in, on our own in our own spaces for too many years. And then we've met, and yeah, I mean, marriage was just the way of being together here in Australia. We didn't want to live separate and then continue the romance while I'm in Europe and he's here. But yeah, it is actually fresh relationship, fresh marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and living together. Yeah, it was. It's suddenly, like, out of the, what do you call, like, the honeymoon period, very quickly did we get into the real shadow work. Because it's just yeah, two different people, or we have very, like, many similarities, but now we're living in together. And yeah, so we were talking about earlier on, so I realized how much actually I need my space, and
Mm-hmm.
how much often I would give men in relationships, in my previous relationships, I would give men space, and I would feel guilty for asking for space and time,
Mm-hmm.
um, because of my upbringing. So, and then I would resent, it
Mm-hmm.
would be internal resentment of a guy. Well, now, like, I more and more I don't feel guilty, or or I'm dealing with it guilt or shame about something, because I feel those are my needs.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, it's a big adjustment. So for me, this is probably the most mature relationship so far. We always saying the most, but I'm only 40. Hopefully, I will have some more life to have even more mature way of handling everything. um it's, yeah, so my husband is basically responsible for me going into my softness. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was time. It was time for me to see how hard or how harsh, or I have been, because of the way I grew up, where I grew up, culturally and everything else. But I couldn't see that, and I've seen this recently even in one of my friends. And I was just saying to a friend of mine the other day, how is on a big screen that, like, ugliness of the shadow, the darkness of the shadow, sometimes in other people,
Mm-hmm.
that is like on a big cinema screen, but we're never seeing it that big ever in ourselves, because we
Mm-hmm.
always say, yeah, probably I have some, yeah, but it's almost impossible. I'm still like wondering, it's almost impossible to see it that big, because ego is just not allowing us to see that, like, oh my god, I'm not behaving in this kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and also, so the other thing, what I'm really, really grateful for in this relationship, in my marriage, is I uh, my husband helped me to actually dive the deepest that I've ever dived into my fear, into my
Mm-hmm.
the origin of my, like, the roots of my fear. And I've just realized that I've done with the fear, like what I've done before with the sadness or grief, but I've never actually, I've came where I've done what I've done in my life, or I came even here in Australia now, and I live a beautiful life. But actually, I never understood. I forgot that part of me, which was very afraid for a very long time in my childhood. Very. So now, like, I have, like on somatic level, I feel that fear. I felt that fear. I felt that fear before I would get married, where I thought, geez, like, I've never felt that, because
Mm-hmm.
this was for me again going into a family, which I was, pretty good with avoiding as well,
Mm-hmm.
because of my, I grew up in as an orphan and in a foster family, and I even ran away from, just, some emotional and then physical abuse. And, I left when I was 19. So yeah, basically this was now like, what am I doing? Because I was like, I've been on my own. I know how to take care of me. And I just felt like this is not safe. This wasn't, but it wasn't on a thinking level. It was much deeper. So this has been basically, pretty deep stuff, within over a year. So yeah, I'm very, very grateful because, I think on your own, most likely you would never get maybe this quick into this stuff. So I think our partners and then our children and parents and whoever, like, they really help us. The closest people to us really help us to go into that stuff. So yeah, no matter how hard it is at times, the consciousness, and I think like that years and calmness, like, and acceptance, I think helps me to go through it much easier than I would have probably years and years ago. So yeah, that's where I am, and that's my learnings. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, and I feel like for most people it is that actually the people closest to us, so it is, especially when it comes to relationships, they're making us aware of and bring up the biggest stuff, right? And like the closer that connection goes and comes, and the closer someone comes, we can no longer hide from these things. When we're really like strong and independent, it's also a way, it's a lot easier to hide from certain things, right, that are still painful, or certain fears. And I think in like very close relationships, we actually have to face these things. There's like no choice, you have to. But that it can actually be a very good thing, even though it can be really painful and challenging at times, which I think it is for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was always craving inside, for gentleness, for softness, and I want to be like, this is now basically my commitment and my mission, because I feel when I'm in that space, it's all good, and all can come to me. All is good, So yeah, and only now I'm realizing how hard and how, in a hard space I was, and how hard I was, to myself first, and then to the world, But yeah, it takes a long or a lot for us to see that, So very grateful, very, very grateful. I feel like, because I keep talking, I know it's probably too much about the years, being 40, there's something about it that I feel, wow, this is going to be a beautiful another a decade or two, like again hard, but it's like when you cook something, and when you cook it, when you simmer it for a long time, and certain ingredients, and you add up spices and stuff. I love aging. Young people often say, oh, it's, we're all, one and soul, but your life experience as a human beings, they really, really help. And I'm so grateful with the whole of the process of aging. I often say, like, I'm grateful here where I am. I wouldn't like to be younger, because every time when I work with younger clients, I'm like, oh, like my older friends have more joy than the youngsters. And I remember my pain, and I was like, no, I like to be where I am. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of beauty in it, and I can also see it with, like I said, what I really enjoyed also having friends that are a lot older than me, and it is like a real friendship. And like they actually have that, like they don't take it as seriously as much what other people think, and they don't take themselves, it's not for all people, for most people that are pretty aware and like really living life, they don't take themselves as seriously anymore. And I think that's the beauty of aging and the beauty of older people. They don't think themselves and other things as seriously, and that they actually, because of that, live a lot more in the moment, and I think a lot of young people, and I can also see myself something, we're so focused on the future and we have to do all these things and we have to create all of this and put so much pressure. And I think at a certain age, not everyone, but a lot of people are like, nah, I'm not going to pressure myself as much anymore. And that there is a lot of beauty in that, like in that experience. And
Yeah, I just wanted to add, it takes, time and lots of, love for, I don't know, a little tree, young tree to develop its roots. And this is what I see when you say, like, I mean, again, not maybe even most people, but, also many of my older friends, they, there's like self-confidence, self-esteem is higher, is healthier, believe in self-love even. But this isn't, because unfortunately we're not taught that, unfortunately most of us, we haven't been taught that. So in order for the the little tree to actually grow its roots and to actually, when the wind blows, you're still there, because I'm 40 now. Of course my roots are much stronger. I've been through the freaking winds and storms, and it teaches you. So yeah, the time and practice, I always say it's not just time. It's lots of practice and reflection. But yeah, it's beautiful what it does to us, so, because I wish this to every human being, from year to year, to look back and to, to be grateful where you are. And especially because we as a women, maybe also in a society, we're so obsessed with our looks, with the aging, with the wrinkles, with the, we're having expiry periods, and with the, becoming a mother or not, So I think it's very, like, I'm very grateful to have this. I mean, that I don't feel stressed. I actually enjoy it, and I feel, like I've never been enjoying my womanhood, my femininity, my humanness, or my life as much as right now. So
yeah, and it's never too late for that. No
yeah,
matter what age
exactly.
someone is at, you can still rediscover yourself and still implement and experience all these things that you desire. And I was also wondering if you also have some questions for me, because we're going more towards the end of it now. We will continue, of course, can continue on going forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do actually. I wanted to. How many questions? Did you
Three.
say two or three? Three.
Three.
What is your daily self-love, self-care practice?
I think my most important practice, and it's always been just my morning meditation. And it's been my practice, I think, for almost 5 years. And for me, self-love is not just about like pampering yourself, like, even though it is also something I had to learn, it's more the softness thing, that's okay too. But for me, that is my self-love practice, because it's the moment that I'm always committing to, that's for me. So it's no matter where and what's going on in my day, I always start my day like that. And I think it also gives some stability and safety, and that's what I need. And so it's also a time for me to just be with my emotions and be with myself before I start my day. And I think that a lot of the other self-love and self-care things come out of that. So again, it's not just about the practice, but I think that practice has taught me to be present with myself. And I think that is actually where like self-love comes down to, is just being present with yourself, no matter what state you're in. Yeah.
Awesome. And what's your latest, deepest realization or learning?
Yeah, I think my deepest realization is that it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay not to be happy. And then you can still have other people around. So I think that was a really big realization for me. So first I thought I embodied that, like it's okay not to be okay. like we've talked before about the shadow work, I was really good at being present with my own pain. But what I recently realized, I was really uncomfortable having other people around me when I wasn't in a positive state. So what I realized is that even though I'm like grumpy sometimes, it doesn't matter. You know, I can still be around other people. So that was a big realization for me. Like, because I was really, I got really comfortable being with negative emotions, but being in those emotions around other people, that was something I wasn't as comfortable with.
Yeah. That so resonates. Yeah, so I understand. And what are your 3 favorite podcasts or channels or YouTube channels or people?
I think
right now.
One of my favorites is London Real, and it's also a company that I've worked for a little while as well. So I kind of also really know the insides of it. But I've been listening to their podcast a lot over the last years, and I think the quality is really high. So the quality of the guests, but also the quality of the interviews and like the depth. And what I also, what I really, other podcasts I really like is, I think there was definitely in the beginning in spirituality, not as much now, but I listened a lot to it, and it was Wisdom from North. So it's a Janneke, and then Janneke is also little, like, I think almost a year ago, probably, she was also a guest on this podcast. So I also really enjoyed connecting with her, and she's also someone that's really genuine and, really doing things for the right reasons. And so I also loved how kind of free her podcast was, and how like unashamed she is to ask certain questions and things, and she's really open. And another podcast I really like is Joe Rogan. Is very well known, I think, for a lot of people, but I really like a lot of the guests he has. And I also like that it's in a very like relaxed way. So it's very relaxing. It's like going really deep into a lot of deep stuff, but in a very more relaxed and fun way. So I think those were like the 3.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I also like Joe Rogan, and this London Real, I think I've seen a little bit, but I haven't actually followed them. So I actually wrote it down because I want to check out.
So they have a lot. A lot of guests that I really like. So that went really deep into, also go into therapy, but also into healing and self-development. But I felt in a very like authentic way. So that's, I think, what attracts you most to certain podcasts. It's like when I feel it's really authentic, and also like the host is also someone that kind of embodies it, you know, like also lives it and not just talks to people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay.
Did you have fun questions for me?
So I do have there are also some deeper questions for you as well.
What about fun?
You also want a fun one? Okay, let's start with a fun one. So what historical figure, it's fun and deep at the same time.
It's very fun. This sounds too deep.
Everything is really deep. So what historical figure would you like to have a deep conversation with? So it can be anyone of the past, you know, so that is past, like anyone you would like to have a conversation with, and it can be anything. It can also be about something fun if you want to.
Yeah, I'm just now trying to think the fun. Okay, let's say this guy, the comedian who died, Robin Williams. Is he historical enough? Yeah, so I think because of his comedy, I think he would be also deep, and but also has a good sense of humor. So maybe with him.
Oh, that's a good one. I like, yeah, I love it. He's one
I
of my
know, because when you
favorite
said
actors and
historical,
comedians.
I just,
Yeah, I mean,
first when you said
historical, just of the
historical, I thought
past.
about, I don't know, Churchill, or, and I
Oh,
thought about
no.
politicians.
No, it's just someone like that's kind of well known. And yeah, but I think
Yeah, I
Robin
understand.
Williams is, yeah, I love his, like, one of my more favorite movies are with his. I think he's one of the best actors so
Yeah.
far. And also someone
And
I can
actually,
be.
Freddie Mercury, I think he will be also fun, and like, I don't know, I just, with a movie that I've seen about his life, I really like, I fell in love with who he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I
that's
also
it too.
yeah, okay, two. That's okay. You can have two. And then also, if you would kind of now would be able to have like a bottle, and you could put a message in like this glass bottle, and then like young Angelica would then be walking over the beach alongside the shore, and then that bottle would come to the shore, and she would open it up, and you can now put like a short message in there for her. What would you put there for her to read, like around, let's say around like 7 years old, something like that?
Yeah, I would say you're loved, and it's all gonna be okay.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, for 7-year-old, when you said, yeah, that's it.
And this is also going to be then a deeper question. What is love for you? What does
Love
it
for
mean?
me is this softness, gentleness, kindness. That's, yeah, anything that we can do from that space for me is love.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I think so too. I think love is beautiful. And the softness
It
is
is.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's amazing that you're recommitting yourself to that. And I think for a lot of, who identify as strong, independent women, I think it's a very great practice to commit to, because it's beautiful to have that strength and that individuality, but like everything, we kind of need both, right? So we need both
Yeah.
that strength and that softness, and like one is not better
Yeah.
than the other. Yeah.
Yeah. And my husband actually brought it up that because I'm teaching this even more in my community or back home. I'm from ex-Yugoslavia, I'm from Croatia.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're world known by not by our softness so much. Not
Yeah.
to generalize the whole the whole Eastern Europe per se,
Yeah.
but because I'm bringing this message, or I'm bringing this teaching, or I want to help really there with softness, because we really need it. However, he said that I'm in a Western world, that I am my strength here, like how he sees me, is that standing up for you and boundaries. And he keeps saying to me, you should have a workshop on boundaries, for the Western world. So I see, like, yeah, how we gain something from the region or from the place where we are from, and this is where I gain my standing up and boundaries. I think this world is teaching me here softness as well, because it's different culture and it's different. But yeah, it needs to be balanced.
Yeah, and
Just
it is.
exactly what you said.
Yeah, and
If it's
every
not balanced,
culture has
then we are not.
its things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of every culture, and that's why I always love traveling so much, because every culture has its own unique strength, right? It's its own unique things, and then I think that's why it's most powerful for like opposing cultures in a way. I think they can learn most from one another, because what we
Yeah.
kind of have excessively that other cultures might be lacking.
It helps us to bring that balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just even for me traveling, but even living in a country, because
Yeah.
in order for you to live, you need to accept the rules of the kind of culture. and you need to immerse yourself in. While, you know, when we travel, depending how long we're traveling in that
it's
country,
different.
we're still with our heads on, and we're looking at it, oh, they're like that. So that stops at some point only if you actually are committing to live there. So, and some people, it takes them a while. So that's why they struggle to settle, because of non-acceptance of what's different for them. So
yeah, and it can be very difficult. And I think it's challenging for everyone to, like, when to kind of stand strong in your own thing, this is my thing, and when to kind of adapt more. I think it's again difficult to find that balance, right? What do I accept and what do I not accept for myself?
Yeah, I would remove passports, borders, systems, and if we would, you know, again go into like nomadic way, we would have just gained so much more wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's for another time. It's like a deeper topic. I don't want to open it up, but this is how I feel living, you know, in so many different, you know, continents and regions in the world and countries, and you know, different cultures. Just how beautiful that is. It's like spices, you know. Back home we use, I don't know, a couple of spices, yeah, they're like our favorites. And then, you know, I was living in Middle East, and, you know, I traveled through Asia, you know, and it's just, yeah, the world needs more of spice in my humble opinion. Like it's beautiful. It's beautiful how we're all different and the same at the same time, you know. Thank you, Sunny.
Yeah, thank you so much. And what are the coming months, like this year, for you looking like? Are you still going to continue doing a lot of workshops in Australia? Or?
So yeah, I'm actually now just focusing on the next couple of months because they're quite full. So within a month, I'm going to be traveling all around Australia with my workshops in different cities of Australia. And after that, I'm going to Europe for 3 months, where I'm going to be delivering workshops, traveling, you know, going to the weddings with my husband, and, you know, and I'm going to do one thing that I'm excited about. I'm going to do Camino de Santiago, like a long hike, you know, 800 kilometers long from, you know, north of France, and then all the way down through Spain for like, I think 30 plus days, you know. So excited about it because I love walking, I love nature, and I love Spanish culture and everything else. So I'm glad also to I'm starting to relearn Spanish again so that I can use it there for a month. And yeah, exciting. Yeah, very exciting. I think Camino, I will need it after all the work and workshops that I'm going to do. How about you?
Yeah, about me, so like this year I'm going to be doing a lot of retreats as well. So mainly now helping and facilitating at other people's retreats and different trainings, and also doing a lot of private sessions now here in Holland, and also a bit online. But also, really, for me, the intention this year is to travel a lot. So I'm first going to Costa Rica in March until the beginning of April, and then I'm also in April going to Ibiza, also for the retreat, and then let me see, in May I'm going to Prague. So that's what's planned for now, and what happens like after that I still have to see, but it's for the coming months, and the rest is still kind of open for me. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
We're pretty full. Yeah, this is for me as well, planned just until August, and I haven't even Europe for me. Like now from Australia, I'll just say Europe. I'm gonna be in, I don't know, in 5 or 6 or maybe even more different countries. So it's different. Yeah, now I become Australian. When I go, I visit most Europe when I'm in the region. So yeah, awesome plan. Sounds like exciting year ahead, exciting months for you and for me. And thank you for this chat. It was really beautiful to catch up after a year almost. So
it was great speaking to you again, and it's great. And I also hope that everyone who listened to it enjoyed it as well, and also if you say, okay, I'm interested, you are in Australia or around in Europe around that time, I think they can just visit your website, right? For
Yeah,
more
they can
information
find
and
it
things like that.
all,
Yeah.
or on my Facebook or on my
Yeah.
website.
Yeah, put it in the description. So thank you for being here. And I also want to thank everyone for listening and wishing you all a beautiful week.